That $35,000 lesson has saved me millions because
Mm.
I then develop a disciplined approach to everything that I do. And I'm not sure if that discipline would have came
Yeah.
if I wasn't so hurt from that loss.
Derrick Brooks played 14 seasons for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers without missing a single game. He won a Super Bowl, earned 11 Pro Bowl selections, and was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. That part of his story you probably know. What you may not know is what he's done since. He's a prolific investor, having invested in dozens of businesses and funds, many of which are in the Tampa Bay region. He also co-founded a charter high school to give kids access to the kinds of education he believes we all deserve. He spent years as an executive inside the organization that owns the Tampa Bay Lightning. He was recently appointed to Chief Operating Officer at USF Athletics at one of the most turbulent moments in the history of college sports. This conversation covers it all. The lessons he learned from his mother growing up in Pensacola that he still carries with him today. What legendary men taught him about building culture. What he looks for when he evaluates investment opportunities. And how one arrives at their true identity once the thing that they were defined by ends. I have to say, this was an incredible conversation to have recorded, and I feel truly blessed to have been part of it. Enjoy. So, Derrick, thank you so much
Yes.
for joining us on Closing Remarks. I know you were.
I love it, closing.
You love that, right? Closing? We're
Yes.
very clever, right? We like to close deals, and we had to embed Mark in there somewhere for
Yes.
benchmark. I know you're about the busiest guy on the planet, so I really appreciate you taking a few minutes. So I think the best way to start with you is at the beginning.
Yes, sir.
So let's take it back to Pensacola. You were raised there. Your mother, Geraldine, was
Yes.
a big part of your upbringing, and you thanked her in your Hall of Fame speech kind of above anyone else.
Yes, I
So
did.
what did she instill in you that you probably couldn't have gotten anywhere else?
Well, again, the affectionate love, from a mom. All moms have it, towards their kids. And for me, it was that much more special knowing that of all the coaches that I went to the same high school that she did, and coaches that were there at that time talked about how my mom was that girl, that she was all that in high school, and she did not get a chance to pursue her athletic dreams because she was pregnant with me. And back in the early 70s, that wasn't acceptable.
Right.
Girls in college, pregnancy, it wasn't there. So, she decided to raise me with my stepdad. And I've always, as I learned her story, not feeling a sense of guilt, but a sense of responsibility, to just honor her with everything that I could possibly do, athletically, just try to show my mom to live that through me in so many words. And, big supporter of everything that I did. She loved hard. And
Yeah.
I mean, love hard, man. The discipline, it was there. And I just always just wanted to show her love and respect, and that connection to Pensacola will always be with me through her. Everything that we do in our foundation back in Pensacola now is in honor of her memory from the relationships that she formed. And I must tell this funny story about my mom. A lot of these things I did not know until she passed away, how the life of the party she was. She had a nickname, there's the number one tailgater.
Oh,
Which I never knew that while I
That's great.
played. I never knew it while
was
I
that an
played.
official designation?
Whomever, I don't, who knows legends, story-wise how she became her, but
That's
I
great.
know my mom, I know it was earned. I do know that. But how she just used to, come to all our games. That's one of the fortunate things about playing in Florida. She attended a lot of the games here in Tampa. And apparently she used to have a massive tailgate that I knew nothing about at all.
You were busy.
I was very busy, and she would just have such a good time with fans and harass opposing fans that she just took a legend of her own to be called that. So I actually didn't know a lot of these things until after she passed away in 2007, and people would see me and say, "We love your mom. We love Miss Geraldine. She's a #1 tailgate. #1 what?" And they tell stories, and then I asked my other family about it. It's like, yeah, that was not my mom. Like,
That's
yes,
great.
that was your mom. So again, it all starts with her, just the upbringing and discipline that her and my stepdad just raised me under. Always, hey, academics first, above anything sports wise, and they just continued that, and I obviously take that on my own kids now.
That's incredible. So we have some similarities here. We were born almost at the same time. We both played will linebacker.
Yes.
Between us, we have one Hall of Fame. And
yes.
11 Pro Bowls and one Super Bowl ring.
No,
right?
we earned that.
We both also had a mother who was irrationally passionate about our success and well-being. And had a stepfather that also really stepped up. I had one as well. He's still alive. He's late 80s, and he still shoots his below his age every time on the golf course. I wish I had some of his blood in me, right? So incredible guy. And, but my mother was irrationally passionate about me, which I think is why I am wherever I am today. I think it's a big reason for where I am. I can certainly see that. So you were a standout player at Booker T. Washington High School as a safety.
Yes.
Recruited to Florida State by Coach Bowden, legendary Coach Bowden, and you made a shift to linebacker pretty quickly. You were undersized.
Yes.
As most safeties to linebackers would be. But, yet probably creates a bit of underestimation, right?
Yes.
Was there a chip on your shoulder that you played with your entire career?
I wouldn't necessarily call it a chip for me. What I had, I guess, examples of, especially on the football field from Pensacola, Florida, Emmitt Smith grew up in the same hometown as he, and he paved the way. And you talk about all the football accolades that anyone can imagine having, he had. And his offensive coordinator became my head coach, Jimmy Nichols. So I had a path to see these things, and Coach Nichols told me, say, hey, I see you doing everything that Emmitt did, but you're on defense. You can do it. And he and another gentleman by the name of Coach David Wilson, then they pushed me. They did. And I just always wanted to be the best version, of me. So I had that example, and another example was Roy Jones Jr., during that time, and seeing his success, in boxing. And he was, 4 years ahead of me at Washington High School as well. So I saw that success look like, but I saw what they looked like as people, just my age, if, applying principles and working hard, what you can achieve. So I never looked at it as what others thought. I looked at it from an internal motivation. And for me, I was always internally motivated, Dara, in this sense. It was always about being a student athlete for me. It, to the point where I was, the first time I want to call myself rebellious, the USA Today at that time named me the defensive player, the year, the #1 recruit, and they came to take pictures. And they wanted me in my football uniform, which is fine. I say, but I'm not taking a picture on this field unless you take one in the library. And they said, what do you mean? I said, because I spend more time in there than I do out here.
Yes.
So if you want to capture who I am, you got to start there. So it's a picture of me sitting on a desk in the library, and then there's pictures of me on the field. But that was internally motivating for me, that this thing called a scholarship was a means to get an education. It's the way Coach Wilson framed it to me. Like, hey, you want to go to college? Here's a way to go for free that your parents don't have to pay or go into debt. Scholarship. Oh, okay. How do I get it? Right. He said, you're going to get one by the grade. Keep making the great grades you're making. There's also one for football. Okay. means to an end. And that's what it's always, been for me. So I never played football with a chip on my shoulder trying to prove the doubters of me being undersized. It was always about, hey, I'm going to be the best version of me, and I'm going to meet and exceed those expectations because that's what I wanted to do in the classroom. And what most people don't understand is when you're put on that pedestal in those accolades, it's pressure there to perform under those as well.
Yes.
I just named 2 gentlemen from Pensacola, Florida, that, man, felt and still is to a certain degree chasing that greatness as I paved my own path. But it was always those examples ahead of me that, man, if they're doing it, then that's the motivating factor to me. Hey, if you're so called the number 1 player in the nation coming out, then you got to step up and prove it. Now, the decision to go to Florida State was this simple, and I know people may have heard me say this before. It wasn't the allure of Coach Mickey Andrews or Bobby Bowden. Now, my mom, yes, he recruited my mom. Now, he hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah.
Geraldine was sold on Coach Bowden.
Of course.
Hook, line, and sinker. But now I just woke up in the middle of the night. It was like, where would I go to school, one, if I never played a down of football? Mm-hmm. Where would I go to school? Looked up on a map back then. It wasn't Google. I had to go to a map, measure out distance.
Sure.
Tallahassee is closer to any of these major schools. Auburn was actually the second closest.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to go to Tallahassee because if something happens to me, that's the quickest way my mom and dad could get to me. And a good friend of mine, Raymond Donald, had committed to play basketball there, too, from the same high school. So I was like, I'll be my good friend Raymond. We're in Tallahassee, close to hometown. I'm going to Florida State. That was my college decision. Interesting. It wasn't the lure of football.
Right.
The only thing the lure of football got to Derrick Brooks was the visit to Notre Dame. I'm seeing Notre Dame on TV.
The pageantry. Yeah.
The pageantry.
Yeah.
Touchdown Jesus.
Touchdown Jesus. Helmets fight song.
I had to go see it.
Of course.
I got to go see Touchdown Jesus.
Yeah, of course.
And boy, when I stepped off that plane and saw that white stuff on the ground,
done.
Pageantry
went away.
Yeah.
So the thing that struck me the most, I mean, you talked about some incredible athletes. Roy Jones Jr. was as good at what he did as anybody for a period of time.
Yes.
Anyone was as good at anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I can, and Emmett obviously is Emmett Smith, but you compare yourself against prior versions of yourself and not against other people. Talk about a takeaway. That's an incredible lesson for people.
Yes, it is. And as you transition into life and even speaking to, I say, the audiences that are part of, benchmarks, group today in the world of business. That's why I tell people that's a very big connection point that a lot of people don't see. There's a lot of similarities in what people realize. And we as, athletes, and again, speaking to the colleague in the choir here, it's always important for us to remind ourselves and the student athletes of today and professional athletes is your name is above that number most times on a jersey for a reason.
Yes.
It's symbolism to me because your name that belongs to you. That number belongs to that organization, that team, that college. And it's funny that it sits above it.
Mm-hmm.
The symbolism of understanding that the opportunity and the pedestal that we stand on is not meant to be our identity. Our identity, especially in my case, is not the football player that's Derrick Brooks. It's Derrick Brooks that just happens to play football. It's Derrick Brooks, the Christian, that happens to play football for a living. It's Derrick Brooks that happens to be in athletic leadership. It's Derrick Brooks that happens to be in, my prior life professional hockey leadership. It's those things. Now, working for those organizations, obviously the organizational goals are important. That's what we strive for. But that's not our identity. And I've always been able to keep football on that playing field. And I must be remiss if I don't mention the gentleman that really shaped that perspective for me was Coach Tony Dungy.
Okay.
In 1996.
Sure.
And it was always in me with Coach Bobby Bowden. His famous 3 F's, the only 3 F's you have in life and you never flunk, is faith, family, football. He say that's the only time you get 3 F's in life and you have the most passing grade possible.
Well, let me reset here, just because I think that we've transitioned to a really important part of your story. So, Florida State, you win a national championship in '93, '95. You finish up, and you're drafted in the first round by the Bucs. So the Bucs have lost 10 games or more for 12 straight years.
Yes.
So I think you did 1 year under Sam Weiss,
yes, sir.
and then Tony Dungy comes in. And Dungy comes in, he brings Monty Kiffin in, legendary Monty Kiffin, defensive coordinator, installs the Tampa 2, which everyone has heard of and no one knows what it is other than you and I probably. And that requires a skill set that's very, very unique, especially from the mic and from the will.
Yes.
So someone who has the coverage skills of a safety, sounds familiar.
Yes, it does.
Right? Also a disruptive force in the middle, like a Warren Sapp, doesn't hurt, right?
Definitely doesn't hurt.
So talk about what the cover 2 meant. Talk about Coach Dungy. We'll get into sort of culture from Dungy later, but talk a bit about cover 2 and how it mapped perfectly for your skill set.
Well, strictly, and again, I'll preface that by, which I'll cover here quickly is going to Florida State as a safety. I think their plan was to always move me to linebacker.
I'm sure.
As soon as Derrick Brooks stepped on that scale one day and I weighed 200 pounds, I was at linebacker. In the So I was at safety for probably 1 month of my freshman season.
Right.
Then the rest of the time I was at will linebacker. So I knew, again, knowing what I know now, Coach Andrews, he's going to admit it before he leaves this world. Yeah. He doesn't admit it today. He still's like, nah, that's not. Yes, it was, Coach.
That's funny.
But so, again, being drafted here in Tampa, and I never talked to Tampa. Nowadays when we see all the draft coverage and you see all these players on all these visits and talking to coaches, that didn't happen for me. I just happened to have a really, at the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama, meet with Jerry Angelo at the time. He's a personnel director. Just a by chance meeting in the lobby, maybe 5-10 minutes.
Wow.
And I didn't really talk to the Bucs at all. So I never knew if they were interested in me or not. No pre-draft meetings, no trips, no anything.
Wow.
So, I see draft day just going through my mind now with the draft coming up in a couple of weeks, and I see my good friend Warren Sapp starting to slip in the draft. Obviously, in my opinion, probably should have been the number 1 player taken, but thank God he wasn't.
Right.
So he goes to the Bucs at 12, and as draft's going on, my agent's like, man, I really think the Bucs are they're in the market for a linebacker. It could be. I was like, well, if it does, that not thinking much. And then my roommate, Devin Bush, gets drafted by the Falcons at 26.
Wow.
And I knew Dallas liked him. We knew that Dallas Cowboys really liked Devin.
Another heck of an athlete.
Yes.
So was his son in Michigan.
Yes. So once Devin was gone, Dallas, their pick's gone, and now it's like, hey, they're making a trade. And they say, hey, I think this is going to be you. Make the call, I get drafted. So now, first year under Sam Weiss, again, as you said earlier, 12 consecutive losing seasons. Wasn't used to losing 9 games. But I'm like, man, this has to change. Coach Dungy comes in 1996, and when you talk about, again, I know the question is focused on defense, but the process and how well we played defense is because of how he managed our team, which is part of the culture piece, where we were successful as a defense, and particularly the defense that's named after this in Tampa 2, is because, we understood, one, how to be good teammates. understood that in order for this defense to be successful, we all had to play our part. And that required sometimes some unselfishness. It required some sacrifice. It required a lot of discipline. And the other thing is, it required us knowing what each other's strengths and weaknesses are. So we had to go learn that. And we learned it by constant repetition. Repetition. We talk about playing in space and cover two. Now we're getting into football terms, where we perfected like everything Rondé Barber and I did were mirror images, but we had to know each other's strengths. Yeah, our Mike linebacker starting with Hardy Nickerson to Sheldon Quarles to Nate Webster, Jamie Duncan, Barrett Rude. All these guys understood in this space where the middle linebacker is normally a tackling machine, but in this defense, you focus on coverage.
Better flip your hips.
Exactly, and you got to cover
down that
space.
seam, yeah.
But we, on the perimeters, Ron and myself, we had to be the run gap fillers. Our front four, we're playing cover two, has to be pressure from you guys because it's not a pressure package or blitz. It's you four guys and someone winning.
Right.
So they knew with timing, they had to win, whether it was through games or individual rushes. They had to set up their rushes where they took away something from the offense because cover two, it has holes, but you got to find them.
Right.
So our defensive line, they knew they were responsible for taking something away from the quarterback. Once they did that, now us on the back end, that's where our perfection came in. And we were successful because we played a lot together. Think about those teams, from 1996 all the way through 2004. We did not have a lot of changes. We got guys that drafted in and learned this, but very few free agent acquisitions. They were very targeted. But our core team, we played 6 or 7, 8 years together. Wow. And again, unheard of in today's game.
Unheard of, yeah.
But back then, again, that was the core strength of our culture.
Yeah.
And again, we give, Monty Kiffin, obviously, I can't speak about my football career with, 13 of my 14 years, he's my defensive coordinator.
Incredible.
Played the most snaps ever for him than any other player.
Wow.
So it was a trust factor there with him. And proud to say that, the coaches that coached me at the linebacker position, from Lovie Smith, Joe Barry, Gus Bradley, a couple head coaches in there. All three went on to be D coordinators, so I like to brag to them.
Yeah.
Hey, I got y'all guys a job, but you had to see a check come to Derrick Brooks Charities.
They probably know it too.
Oh, they do. Great relationship with all of them and their families. But and we talk about Tampa too, and what I talk to teams about today that runs this coverage, it was that. The discipleship on the field, the work that you put in and understanding what each one does, unselfishness at times and understanding, and less got to play your role.
No, that's
a lot like business.
That's right, exactly. That's why we have you on. There's so many lessons here for a business owner and an operator. So let's fast forward to 2002, one of the best years ever of anyone's ever had on defense, right?
Yes.
So defensive player of the year, you had 5 picks, 3 pick sixes, you won a Super Bowl ring. What do you remember from that year? I mean, that had to have been a whirlwind.
Well, what I actually the most fun memory outside of going through the process of the season for me was the parade downtown after we won.
Sure.
And it was fun for me in the sense now, obviously we have our infamous, championship boat parades now, only in Florida. But back the downtown then, man, those people were out of the garages, the building. It was such a sense of pride for the Bay Area.
Well, think of the history of this franchise.
Yes, from 0-26. Yeah. And, all 5 counties had Bucs fans, pouring into that stadium to see us lose 26 games.
Right.
To now, this surrounding Bay Area, all 5, 6 counties now coming together, converging on downtown to say we're champions.
Incredible.
nothing else like that. The first, and just seeing that sense of pride from our fans is something that is walking those streets downtown. I just really appreciated that. And that's honestly, that's the most, I mean, the stuff on the field from the, it is that hour and a half. And that's how I keep football in perspective for me. I wasn't thinking about anything number 55 that day. It was all about those men, women, and children that were out there to say thank you and how proud they were to call our area champions. That's, again, I say it all the time, that is the most memorable part of our championship season. I pray that always stay with me. Now, leading up into going into that season, as I rewind, I would not have thought that because I was a very bitter man after seeing Coach Dungy fired. So it was not, it was not a really good tough 3 days for me. But Coach Dungy, in being the man that he is, in the midst of him packing up his office, he sits me down because I say I want to be treated. I don't want to be here. I'm, saying ungodly things and thoughts, and he just let me get it out. He said, Derrick, sit down. See, now that you've gotten that all out, here's what's going to happen. You're not going to get traded. You're not going to ask to be traded because they're not going to trade you. This team deserves the very best of you and being the best leader possible to get through this. Like, he said they deserve it for you to be the best leader possible to get through this transition of whomever your next head coach is going to be. This team is a Super Bowl caliber team. Don't destroy that from the inside out by your actions and your attitudes. He said, now, I'm probably going to be named the next head coach of the Indianapolis Colts next few days. I'm sharing that with you. And hopefully we'll meet in the Super Bowl.
He's a unique man.
He said that. That's going to, he said, but you're going to be here playing for the Buccaneers. And hopefully, again, I'll be playing against you guys.
Wow.
He said, but get it all out here in this office. Because once we leave here, I don't want you to have these type of conversations again.
Yeah, back to being yourself.
And I'm sitting there like, God, this man's amazing. In the midst of my hurt.
Yeah.
In the midst of what I can only imagine what he was going through. He took the time to get me back straight.
Takes a special person to do
that. It is. Yeah. And God, from that moment there, February, I just moved forward with a new perspective of whoever our leader was going to be. I was going to be the best leader possible. Now, John Gruden comes in, middle of the night. Legendary trade because no coaches have been traded for in that manner. And he comes in and he challenges me in a way that I've never been challenged. That only Coach Gruden could do that. Yeah. It's a certain thing in getting the best out of someone because I'm always, it's all to me about being humble, staying humble along the way of the journey. And got this message from Steve Griggs, Vintage Sports Group, humility with excellence. Yeah. I've always been humble as I've had successes and spread because this is a team sport. But that's the first time in my life that I had a coach just call me out for my greatness to be selfish. Right in front of the team. Yeah. I need you to be selfish.
Wow.
And I was like, I'm not selfish. He said, here's what I mean selfish. And he challenged the defense. First, he challenged the defense to score 9 touchdowns.
Wow.
Since we thought we were all that, do something legendary, do something you never done before. How about score 9 touchdowns? Man, it's like, who is this guy coming here challenging? But he went right at us. And me personally, he just pulled me to the side and he said, hey, I need you to be selfish, man. In his office, I was like, what do you mean by, Coach, I'm not a selfish? I say, hey, I'm being the best version of me, being the best teammate, be the best leader. Coach Dungy told me. And that's how I lead. He said, man, screw all that. I need you to be the best defensive player because you are the best defensive player in this league. But I need you to show it. I said, what do you mean show it? He said, go out there every day and show it. Be selfish. He said, everyone knows Derrick Brooks ain't going, because he's doing this thing. Everyone knows you're not going to talk about you.
Right.
You're not going to. Man, everybody knows that. But I need that guy to go so he the best SOB in this league.
Oh.
When these teams show up on Sunday, he said, I don't need them to fear. They're going to watch tape. They're going to game plan around you. When they show up to that stadium, I need you to walk out there like, yeah, I'm the guy. He say, and tell them. Tell them. Now I'm giving G-rated version.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But he's like, I need that mindset.
Yeah.
That's the mindset I need out of Derrick Brooks, because once they see that mindset out of you, it's going to elevate their game.
So was it that same mindset that allowed you to play 224 straight games in the most violent sport on the planet, in the most violent position?
It was part of it. At that particular time, again, under Coach Dungy's leadership, it was about, hey, how can we have some consistency and not have chaos?
Yeah.
And that was his culture. Hey, it's about we're doing the same things every single day. We're building this foundation, and that's what we're going to stand on. And it got us to a certain point. Coach Gruden was needed was to take it to the next level. And I honestly believe this in terms of me, because it all connects at the end.
Yeah.
I started my foundation back then at the same time. It was about serving the community in a way that Coach Dungy framed this for me, about serving the community, and that's bigger than the game of football. And it was, still is. Coach Gruden challenged me in a way when he's talking about being the best, it's more to be done in that area too, but I need the change in you to start seeing areas of opportunity where there's growth. I never saw that type of growth in my leadership unless I was challenged the way that Coach Gruden challenged me. It was to me, it was bigger than football. When he was saying be the best, he used that analogy because we were in a football setting, and yeah, we were that caliber team that was Super Bowl winning ready. But for me personally, it took on a bigger picture of needed more from me as a husband, more for me as a leader, more for me as a friend. Like, I'm never going to say I was comfortable, but I was so externally focused on serving where I needed to be internally focused where I could serve more. Sure. And Coach Gruden challenged me, and I look back now, he challenged me in the way to do it. And so we go on, and, magical season, just going through that process. So he came in, and he had a very positive disruption to us. From the way defensively, as you said earlier, we dominated practice. It was, nothing for us to go out there and shut out the offense in practice.
Right.
But not with him. It was, man, we're going to attack you guys every single day. By doing that, we're building up our offensive confidence as they have success against you guys.
Iron sharpens iron.
Yes, and at the same time, it's letting you guys know there's some vulnerability over there that needs to be addressed. So he had a method to it through his madness, and his energy was affectionate, and we did. We needed that. So when people always ask me this question too, who team was it?
Yeah, right.
Coach Dungy teams or Coach Gruden team?
Yeah.
I say neither one.
Yeah.
I said, well, neither one. I said, no, it's the Glazers team, because they the one that won it.
And it was Brooks' team, and Rondé's team, and it was Warren Staff's team.
I say the business they're the ones that signed the checks.
They were.
Okay, it's
they
their
still
team.
are. That's
exactly.
right. So, and I'm going to fast forward to the rest of your storied career, because there's a lot more to it here. And so after football, we've talked about the identity shift, which is key, and you've already covered that in great detail. So you joined the sports group. Actually, before it was called that, you became a part of the Tampa Bay Storm.
Yes.
So you really found your footing quickly. I want to talk about Mr. Vinnick and his ability to establish culture.
Yes.
You've got Dungy, you've got Bowden, you've got Gruden, you've got Monty Kiffin, you've got Mickey Andrews, and then you have Mr. Vinnick. You have these great establishers of culture.
Yes.
Talk about what Mr. Vinnick gave you and maybe compare and contrast with the rest of them.
Well, thank you. I have been blessed, Dar. When I think about just this Bay Area, we talk about individuals that's been critical in culture that I have built relationships with. 14 years, Malcolm Glazer and the Glazer family and their family. And then Eddie DeBarlo, him agreeing to be my partner at our charter high school, Brooks DeBarlo Collegiate High School, and the culture that he built of winning with the San Francisco 49ers. Yeah. And I had got today opportunity to be his partner and learn from him. And then the third phase of that is Mr. Jeff Vinnick. Thank God for Todd Lawicki. Todd Lawicki, our prior CEO to Steve Griggs, by happen chance, know a friend of mine named Tim Ruskell, who was on the personnel staff with the Bucs, who became the general manager of the Seattle Seahawks, who Todd worked with. So when Todd got to Tampa, fast forward, Mr. Vinnick buys the team, and in the fine print of the contract, he purchased the Tampa Bay Storm.
Snuck it in.
Yeah, they snuck that in, and they didn't have anyone to run the team.
Yeah.
And at that particular time, Tim Ruskell knew that I wanted to now, this phase, get involved with the business of sports. Because I've been talking to him about, like, hey, I checked that bucket list of working for ESPN for 3 years, and they want to make a big investment into me, on their talents, but I'm not really looking at, because my son's starting to play football, and I want to be around. So we started talking about what that looked like, and he shared that conversation with Todd. So Todd gets a hold of me, and I go to dinner with him, say, run the arena football. I'm like, okay, I'm familiar with the Tampa Bay Storm. They won more games than the Bucs when I first got here, so I'm very familiar, with the Storm. They have more championships. I'm very familiar with them. I say, but before I say yes, I need to meet this Jeff Vinnick guy. He said, Jeff, I said, yeah, I'm familiar with him because his mutual funds, I've been investors in my portfolio. Yeah. So I like to meet him to say thank you.
Yeah, of course.
So I go up to the SunTrust building the very next day, and I meet Mr. V. And I've never met anyone as visionary at that point in my life than him. We looked out those windows and we saw a sawmill, a downtown with outdated buildings, no culture, no identity, and we saw the arena. At that time, the Tampa Bay Times Arena. He's like, we're going to change all of this through the power of hockey and serving the arena. What do you mean? And he got up and his wife, and he just showed me how we're going to change. He said, this is how we're going. This is moving my family from Boston down here. I'm going to be indebted into the Tampa Bay community. He said, but I need your help. They don't know me. I've done my research on you, and this community trusts you.
Yeah.
You have built a lot of equity, and we want to be your teammate in doing it. And I looked at him and I said, Mr. Vinnick, you said all of this will be changed into business opportunities, employment, entertainment district. And this arena will be the centerpiece of. He said, yes. I say, I tell you what, I'll learn how to run an arena football team, but more importantly, I need to be around you. So I say, the answer is yes. I do got to go tell my wife, but I think she'll be on board because I'm not traveling with this job like ESPN.
Right.
But I need to build a relationship with you. And we didn't have. So to see that vision in he and Todd's mind, And then he talked about the team, Steve Griggs, Martha Fuller at the time, of getting on, Elizabeth Fraser, like getting on these other executives that's going to be part of what we're going to do here, and allow me to be a part of that. Here I am. I'm just retired football player that's trying to serve this community the best way that I possibly can. But seeing how those assets come together and building a relationship with him, to see, man, how culture is king and how culture matters. And to him to be as hands-on, especially with my relationship with him in rebuilding the Lightning organization, which turned into the Vinnick Sports Group as we added on, other portfolios of business. And, for 15 years, like I said, I worked there as long as I played with the Bucs. So to be a part of that, and for him, a lot of people say best owner in sports, absolutely, hands down. One of the most humble, motivated, still one of the most visionaries in my life that I've had a chance to build a relationship with. I thank him every time I see him and talk to him. He thanks me as much as I thank. We can't out-thank each other.
It sounds like both of you. Both of you are known in that way.
Again, and to see what we in Tampa as a community had the opportunity to grow with him. That, in my opinion, it doesn't get talked about enough.
It doesn't. I totally agree with you.
It does not get talked about, and he would never want to take the credit for a lot of this, but I'm kind of forcing him by saying this. But he deserves a lot of the credit of bringing that thinking to our business thinkers in areas that people now had a North Star to go towards to get us to that. To now others are in that are resetting that North Star. Obviously, relationship, with you guys here at Benchmark, like resetting of that North Star through the next change of leadership, which he's still involved in, not sitting in the front seat, but still in the car to help drive us to that. And that's why, I'm excited. He's one of the first ones in my current role, as leaving there to go over USF Athletics as the COO. He connected dots for me with that. Like, hey, Derrick, this opportunity gives you a chance to do these things in the youth and business areas, just like it did 15 years ago.
Of course.
I didn't necessarily connect those dots, but that's where he's been there for me to see that here are these opportunities to do it on this phase of your life. And again, I could spend all podcasts talking about Mr. Vinnick, but for those that, that are watching this, that's going behind the veil, of Mr. V's greatness, I just want to, give them just a small snippet of that we are very fortunate.
We are.
To had him come at that time and still have him here to be a part of our community.
Well, that's so well said. So you touched on your current role. Let's dive in there. So you dove into college sports as COO of USF, which I think is the only college who has a COO and CEO of the athletic program, which is incredible. And you've come in at a time that's the most tumultuous maybe in history. You got NIL, you've got revenue sharing, you've got conference realignment. What a crazy time. What madness drove you back into college sports?
Well, it was, a really, as I said, the opportunity at Rob Higgins to work with him. When Rob was leader of sports commission, my God, since 2008, working with him on all these events, and as I've grown in my post career, taking a bigger role as a sports commission and representing Vinnick Sports Group all these years, so to have those successes with him and see our work ethic, offered the opportunity to say, hey, let's do this on a daily basis. And Rob laid out the role. I was like, man, it's interesting. And as I shared with Steve, Steve Griggs, that is, framed it up. Hey, this is in terms of the relationships, really how would, how could you see this opportunity for the next 12 years? And it's a family component that your daughter's there, as a student athlete on the softball team, Dania and Darius, my son works there in the College of Education. And so how many people get a chance to do that with their kids was one component of it. And as you stated earlier, for all those things you said earlier, that's why I'm running to the chaos to help figure it out. And also reestablish the USF brand, just like I did, was part of the team to do that with the Lightning brand in 2011.
Yeah.
So how could I bring those experiences and reestablish in USF, which is a pillar partner in this community? USF touches more tentacles in this community than any organization from a university standpoint, in a business standpoint. And a lot of people don't realize that because it hadn't been an emphasis there.
Right.
So when you come through a new presidential change with Dr. Moez Lamim, now with a business mind, understands that, Rob understands that, myself understands that community business connection points, we're bringing that to USF, especially in the world of athletics where it's not just all about NIL and rev share. It's about us positioning ourselves to be part of the bigger brand of college athletics, but more importantly as a university too, because our AAU status hasn't been leveraged enough in the business worlds, and we're sitting at the table with other academians that understand the economics behind those academic excellence achievements.
Yeah.
And we can match that on the athletic side. Now that's where the uplift comes for all of our community to benefit from that, because out of that becomes opportunities. And I just want to be on the frontier and the front part of creating those opportunities, particularly for our student athletes, because as I'm starting to, and again, I've had these conversations that from our backgrounds, playing sports, in our case, particularly football, there is a correlation of employers that want that understand that from student athletes.
Definitely.
From the critical thinking to the hard work to the discipline to being on time, all those soft skills outside of colliding with another human being.
Right.
You bring in that skill set, but it takes men and people in our positions to get them to understand it, and to bring a focus to that. So that's just some of the small things that I do.
Not so small.
At USF, but it has been a transition for me, going from working for one organization, being a hockey team, to you got 21 different organizations, because each sports is its own business.
It is.
And navigating through that, and the government relationships with working at a public university. Again, understanding those dynamics and what decisions that you're faced with and what decisions you got to get input. We're learning those every single day. But one thing I will say is we're on a proactive attack led by Mr. Higgins, and understanding that USF, we want to be a big part of the next phase of growth in the Bay Area. We want to be on the front end of that.
I don't see how you can't be. I mean, with you and Rob and Will Weatherford at the helm of the trustees, you and I have talked about, in my view, on the Saban effect at Alabama and the Kirby Smart effect at Georgia, what that does to draw new applicants.
Yes.
These schools get more rigorous, they get more selective, they get smarter kids draw better professors, and it becomes a snowball. And USF is already a great institution. It's going to be one of the elite institutions in the entire world. And I think that's what you're working on, which is awesome. I want to pivot to another version of you. So we've talked a little bit about it, but let's talk about Brooks Bunch. Just give me a little bit about the background there, the origin story.
Yeah. So, as we transition to talk about, my charity work, my charity, obviously, it starts with, for me, my own family, my wife, Carol, who I've known, talk about Pensacola. We grew up together. So she's known me my entire life, and our 4 kids, oldest, Brianna, Rooks, and our youngest, Dania. And the Kalen Brooks and Darius Brooks are my two sons, and a beautiful grandbaby that Brianna and her husband DeAndre blessed us with this past
Congratulations.
March. So that to me, that's Derrick starts with those individuals. And Brooks Bunch started back when I want to say 96. Two kids walking around the stadium with nothing to do, looking to meet football players, and I go up to them and ask them, they ever been to a game? Again, fast forwarding here for time's sake, but I invite them to a game. Yeah. They come, I ask them where do they come from. They tell me about the College Hills Projects area, just east of the stadium. I say, okay, bring some friends. Next week we're playing at home, and hopefully you guys will help us get a win. Well, 300-some people show up next Sunday, Dara. So our team security called me, Derrick, these people were asking, you told them you getting them tickets? Yes, I'm going to get them all, let them all in. So I invite them all in. And again, act of God, because I never met or seen those two gentlemen again. But that led me to go, my heart was, okay, where did you guys come from? Yep. Let me go learn about this community. And there's a Boys and Girls Club there, Audley Hills, which is Belmont Heights, and I just go there to learn. They have no agenda, Dara, no programming, just wanted to just learn what these kids needed. So as I learned more, I started paying for support systems. At that time, hey, I just want to get some teachers over here to tutor these kids to get better grades. So I talked to them, hey, yeah, we could sure use them. So I just hired teachers. Again, my passion for education. Teachers would come and I talked to teachers about needs. And again, as I started to bring support systems in to help these kids, it started to realize they experiences that they hadn't seen outside these clubs and the schools. Yeah. So that's where the Brooks Bunch started, where I started taking them on trips around the world, to get outside those walls, to see a world and expose them to it. For me, it was football. That exposed me to my first flight to Notre Dame. But some of these kids, they'll never have that opportunity. Right. So I wanted to expose them to a world outside the walls of those projects at the time.
Incredible.
And they earned their way to do it. And again, that led to now forming Derrick Brooks Charities, because now it was people in the community that wanted to assist me. I had no vehicle to assist me. Like, hey, we want to give you resources.
Right.
Okay, how do you do that? Yeah. So my foundation, Derrick Brooks Charities, was formed to be that resource. And 26 years later, we're continuing to impact this arena, but we're always going to stay true to our core of education, and particularly youth education.
That's obviously the mission we share with the Lightning as well. So we're invested there as well. So before we get into the lightning round at the end, we'll call it a lightning round. I want to touch on another side of Derrick Brooks. I think that's the 14th side we've touched on, right? So Derrick Brooks, the prolific investor. I've talked about a few introductions I can make, and you're like, oh, I'm already an investor. So just talk a little bit about your involvement in the investment community.
Well, my involvement in the investment community goes back to 1995, and spending every Tuesday from August, the second week of August through the second week of December, every Tuesday night going downtown to Charles Schwab and sitting in their investment classes.
Incredible.
At that particular time, I was aware, but I needed to know how. I hired my financial advisor, Tracy White, who's still one of my FAs now. And I told him I was not going to invest $1 in anything until I understood every component of that. Yeah. And my methodology was, yes, I can invest right now and trust everything that you guys are telling me, which I can, but that investment has no value because I'm uneducated. I need to educate myself, because now the value of that dollar is 1,000-fold, because now I'm educated on what we're doing. And I said, your job, Tracy, is to teach me to the point I don't need you. And if you do that, you'll always have a job with me.
So counterintuitive, right?
Yes. And he said, well, he told me about Charles Schwab having these classes. So I went and I mean, this back then now there where the tech is taking off.
Right.
I mean, it's my colleagues, man, we're making this, we're making that.
Right.
That's fine, but you guys don't, I know what I'm doing.
Exactly.
So over time, saying then I'll start charging you guys when you start asking me for advice. But I did. I went there for 6 months and I started everything from no load mutual funds to, again, that's how I learned about Mr. Vinnick. But just, again, learning what that was about. So it went from learning about the stuff. It wasn't about getting those serious. It was understanding what the information was coming to me from advisors.
Right.
So now that started leading to, as I got here in the Bay Area, okay, deals outside of the market. There is opportunities in what that looked like. So as I come across these different opportunities, then the first area was real estate. So started learning about all type of real estate transactions from, simple residential transactions to, pretty complex deals with warehouse spaces, office spaces, and that led to, building and developments, over the years, just continuing to learn, and grow to now I do have a very sophisticated portfolio in business office that's,
Sure.
Pretty diversified, but it's very strategic too in the partnerships, that I form because I always want to try to help people grow. And now the next phase of that is educating my kids, in the next legacy of what that would look like for them and understanding the space that they're in. Like, no, they don't have to go sit in weekly classes when they have everything in front of them in terms of learning, but they do have to apply themselves to doing it. And, have I learned through failures? Yes. I thank God. Honestly, my first business deal outside the market was a $35,000 T-shirt company deal that me and my two other friends gave a guy, $100,000.
Wow.
To be part of this company of branding these T-shirts with our name on them and selling them in Tallahassee. And the guy, Patrick took that money and ran.
Oh.
Yes, he did. But from that, I thank God that $35,000 lesson has saved me millions because I then developed a disciplined approach to everything that I do. And I'm not sure if that discipline would have came if I wasn't so hurt from that loss of that $35,000.
Well, we learn way more from our failures than our successes. No doubt. I've said that. When I was a VC, I said that constantly. So I totally agree. Okay, so we're going to hit our lightning round here. So every guest at the end gets the same opportunity to stop talking about what's happened and start imparting some wisdom. You've imparted a lot of wisdom so far today, but these will be your closing remarks.
Yes, sir.
We're very clever here. So what's one belief you held early in your career that you've completely reversed now?
I would say a belief that I held that I say that is for change. I would go back to what I said about humility with excellence. There's a way to always have humility with excellence, but also I would change that now as Coach Gruden, challenged me back then to think of selfish moments for you to be greatness. Because there are selfish moments that I never thought that I would definitely change. Now, hey, it's okay to be selfish because if it brings out a level of greatness that someone can learn from and benefit the team, then it's acceptable.
That's a great one. So as an investor, what would be the one piece of advice you'd give a business owner who's trying to get a yes from Derrick Brooks?
I would say the first one is, make sure that there's a spiritual connection and understand their job is to understand me more than me understand their investment. That's what I will always leave. You got to understand me. And most people that I sit down and talk to, if there's not a component of service in anything that they're doing, it's probably going to be a quick no. But
Yeah.
if there's some component of that, it may be no at this time, but let's see how can we grow to,
Yeah.
yes, that makes sense. So always, hey,
Interesting. Yeah.
talking to me, let's make sure that we're investing as a service piece of this
Mhm.
somewhere, or it's something that we could work towards.
The dual mandate there. It sounds a lot
Yes.
like the DeBartolo conversation you had where you had this
Yes.
whole deck prepared.
Yes.
In 3 minutes in, he stops you and says, I'm in.
Is it? Yes, very much, very
That's great.
similar.
Okay, so last question. So what does the next chapter look like for Derrick Brooks?
In my closing remarks here,
Yes. Thank you for that.
no, I'd simply say my next chapter happens every single day. I wake up, God gives me time on this side of the dirt to serve Him and His purpose. I look for areas to see other people blessed, and that's truly the next chapter for me, is to continue that. The next phase of that is, how do I better now transcend what legacy looks like? That's a journey that I'm on. Personally, is define what legacy looks like through my kids and grandkids. Because financially, my parents didn't have that opportunity for me. I have an opportunity in this area for them. They taught me a lot of great lessons, but finances wasn't one of them. So how could I take this void and marry it to other great things that they taught me and start leaving that for my kids and define what that looks like?
Well, I can't wait to watch the next series of chapters. I guess every day is a chapter you read quickly. So, well, Derrick, thank you so much for joining us. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you coming in and supporting this podcast and for your friendship. You're a remarkable guy.
Well, thank you. And I look forward. Let's not let this be the last time we sit down.
Oh, please. I'll call you next week.
Yes, we'll do it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And remember, in business and in life, the best outcomes aren't found. They're built. Derrick Brooks grew up in Pensacola, earned a national championship at Florida State under coach Bobby Bowden, and was drafted by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the first round of the 1995 NFL Draft. What followed was one of the greatest careers in NFL history. 14 seasons, 224 consecutive games played, 11 Pro Bowl selections, 5-time first-team All-Pro, a Super Bowl ring, NFL Defensive Player of the Year in 2002, an induction into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2014. He was the cornerstone of the Tampa 2 defense and a key member of what is widely considered one of the greatest defensive units the game has ever seen. Since retiring, Derrick has served as Executive Vice President of Vinix Sports Group, the parent company of the Tampa Bay Lightning. Co-founded the Brooks DeBartolo Collegiate High School with Eddie DeBartolo and his family. Built Derrick Brooks Charities into a sustained community institution, and has invested in countless businesses, startups, and private equity funds across the Tampa Bay area and beyond. He is now Chief Operating Officer of USF Athletics, where he is helping to bring that great university to its rightful position amongst the greats. He has never left the community that embraced him, and the community has never stopped following his lead.